You described American society as fundamentally democratic. Just now, what did you mean by fundamentally democratic?
Fundamentally
Democratic.
I mean that people value very much their democratic rights and they want to exercise them, and you can
Versus Britain. Great Britain.
Versus Great Britain.
and
Versus Great Britain.
I'm sorry.
Compared
Versus
to
Great Britain.
compared to
US
Britain.
No, I think Britain is the same. I think Britain is very much the same. Yeah.
Okay, what makes the American society come back at decisions like the one Roosevelt wanted to take?
I mean that's because that's just because of you have an inclusive political society, which makes it very difficult to set up sets of institutions that benefit some people at the expense of the vast majority of people in society. That's what the robber barons were trying to do. And so how did that happen? In that case, it actually was new political parties. It was the populist and progressive parties that formed outside the political system. They eventually got incorporated into the Democratic Party, but they forced the political system to act on that and create reform. So some people say like Occupy Wall Street. That's a movement like that. That's a social movement that's publicizing these problems, and it's trying to force people to pay attention and get the politicians to move. So I don't know. So I think that's just part of an inclusive political society where political power is broadly distributed. People can organise and they can stop these type of institutions being created, which are so adverse to their interests.
But you just said that Roosevelt had a majority in both houses. So
His party didn't support him.
Yeah.
They also said that.
Yes, that's true.
What?
But people have to. Yes, they do. But people have to get re-elected. So I think that's an example where politicians, because they were in this system of accountability, where inclusive political institutions, they understood that what was in their short-run interest was not going to be in their long-run interest. So, and I think that's also a case where I don't really have a great theory of this, but there's a way in which, let me give you that example I gave before about James II and the establishment of the rule of law. This is like what an economist would call a public good. Okay, it's something for the benefit of the society, but it's very difficult. No one group wants to establish that because they'd rather have legal principles that benefit them and disadvantage others. Maybe that's a very cynical view, but I think it's supported by a large amount of world history. And many things are like that in society. I think that independent judiciary is like a public good too. And so the political system was accountable enough so that the politicians, they had this short-run interest, but they knew that the long-run interest was different, and they stuck with the long-run interest because society would respond to that. I think so. And I hear you have a situation where you can organise a constitution in your short-run benefit, but there's public goods also you need to. But anyway, as I said, there's more things than the constitution. Constitution is only part of politics, and yeah.
Well, my question has two parts. The first one is related to achieving these extractive political institutions. And it seems from the examples you were giving that in these regimes there seems to be a powerful opposition, civil society and other stakeholders who were able to influence the political decision. And with reference to Egypt, these groups or these stakeholders are absent, whether by their will or they were alienated by the current regime. So my question regarding this issue is this a deterministic feature in achieving extractive political institutions?
I mean inclusive.
Exclusive, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Inclusive.
Extractive.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
They meant the inclusive.
I meant inclusive from the very beginning. Should I rephrase
Yeah.
that?
No. But
Okay.
I don't know. I would have thought that that Egyptian society was. You're saying that there's an absence of this mobilization in Egyptian society.
Yeah, and my question is this a deterministic feature? If we do not have this sort of, the presence of stakeholders in the political decision, can we create inclusive political institutions?
I mean, I think that in any extractive society, there's an incentive for people, who don't, who are sort of exploited by that system, to organise collectively and try to change it. That's very difficult to do. It's very difficult to organise collectively to recognise your grievances and find a language and a strategy for coming together to try to change that. But I would have thought, that's what happened in the Arab Spring. That's a tremendously powerful thing in society. That's not a genie you could put back in the bottle once it's out of the bottle. That's a reality, isn't it, now in Egypt? I mean, I would have thought. I mean, I'm surprised to hear that it's...
No, people are feeling that it has disappeared, that the opposition has gotten weaker and weaker, and because of the fracturing of the opposition. So there is a sort of a depressive air of, disappointment that what we had, for example, in the first 18 days of our revolution has disintegrated completely.
Right, but this is things take time. It takes time to build parties. It takes time. So you have the Muslim Brothers who are just much more organised than anybody else, and so they're bound to do well. When you have these first elections, nobody else is organised. They don't have the same capacity for reaching the people, for talking to the people, for getting the people out to vote, to try to persuade the people to vote for them. Maybe they have other very powerful concepts as well. So they're much more organised. That's exactly what you'd expect, that they do well. But other people will get organised. Parties have to form. People have to build institutions, and they have to build institutions that are capable of competing with the Muslim Brotherhood, and that's what happens in a democratic system. And I don't know why that wouldn't happen. It seems to me that's in the process of happening and forming, and that's difficult because you have power. People want power, and they have to make deals, and they have to form coalitions, and that takes time. And I don't know. I mean, you can't have hundreds of thousands of people running about in the street every day. But I don't think you need that. I don't think you need that either. My kind of view is that these things leave quite long shadows in some sense, and that this precipitated the society on a very different political path. That's not that it can't go off the rails. It certainly can go off the rails. But to me, I haven't seen that so far. I haven't seen. I think people are too pessimistic.
I